Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Beyond Borders, my new video show where we explore contrarian ideas and challenge conventional wisdom in technology, entrepreneurship, and society. I'm your host, Etien Yovchev, and today we're delving into a captivating, while often controversial topic, the intersection of artificial intelligence and journalism, a topic that's very close to everyone here at the Recursive. In an era where newsrooms are under constant pressure to adapt and evolve, the integration of AI has the potential to bring more efficiency to the way we create content. However, it also raises questions about the role of human journalists, the ethical implication of AI generated content, and the potential risks associated with relying on algorithms for content production. So to discuss all these topics, our guest today is the accomplished journalist Zornitsa Stoilova, who is currently editorial director at the Recursive, your favorite online media focused on the emerging tech and startup ecosystems in Central and Eastern Europe. With over 15 years of experience in journalism, Zornitsa brings a unique human perspective to the table as we will discuss the role of AI in newsrooms, the future of journalism, and the evolving relationship between humans and AI. So let's dive in and get ready to challenge the status quo and explore the potential impact of AI on journalism as we know it. Hi, Zornitsa. I'm so happy to have you with me here today. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for challenging me also to organize my thoughts on such a complex topic that I really care about.
You're welcome. So let's start with some rapid fire questions to get us warmed up and make sure we have some content for the younger audiences and Instagram and TikTok. So no more than one sentence per question.
Okay. Okay, let's do
Ready?
it. Yeah.
Let's go. How would you describe the impact of AI on journalism today?
Well, in one word, I would say profound, but in one sentence, I would say that AI is just not just a tool that can automate, repetitive tasks, but also a very powerful event that is happening that have the potential to disrupt the business models in the media world, but also make us rethink the consensus of what journalism is for. What is its purpose and value in our society?
That was
That
a
word.
very long sentence.
I know. I'm a journalist. What can I say?
If you could automate anything in your newsroom today, what would it be?
Writing social media copies that summarize our articles or video content.
All right. What aspects of today's job description of a journalist would no longer exist in 2025?
Well, not sure if it will stop exist or disappear completely, but journalists will definitely probably spend less time doing research or preparing and transcribing interviews and writing their stories.
Okay. What's the biggest risk of implementing generative AI in newsrooms?
Losing the trust of our audiences and our reputation as trusted sources.
All right. Can you name one journalistic task that you think will never be replaced by artificial intelligence?
Talking to people, understanding people, empathizing with people.
What makes you optimistic about the future of journalism?
Well, it's one of the pillars of our democracy, and we can't have a functioning society without it. But also, I think in the abundance of information and images and videos that will be created by AI, we will need a human filter to that noise.
What are you afraid of the most when it comes to AI in journalism?
Oh, well, personally, of course, I'm afraid to become irrelevant. But in general, I'm afraid in waking up in a world where nobody cares what is true anymore.
I think that was a good transition to the more serious and deeper parts of our conversation. So, yeah, the integration of AI technologies in newsrooms is becoming more and more hotly debated topic with many potential benefits and many potential challenges that need to be carefully considered. And while there are no definitive answers yet. I'm very curious to hear your opinions on the topics in the next 40 minutes or so. For starters, as someone with extensive experience in journalism, can you share some of the most pressing challenges journalists face today?
Well, the most important for me would be media companies struggling to find a sustainable business model. Because, for one thing, it drove many talented people out of the industry, and also it doesn't make our profession so sexy anymore for young people to join. I mean, I came to journalism in a very different world. Well, for example, Facebook, there was no Facebook, and people still read newspapers to get informed. But then the global financial crisis hit, and with it, the disruption of old revenue models and the rise of social media and new distribution channels, which completely changed the game for our audience's attention and therefore the role of journalists. And we as journalists were put in a competition with all kinds of content and including entertainment, for example, like people now find their news by scrolling between cat videos and makeup tutorials, and nobody reads anything anymore. So 10 years later, very few media outside maybe of the big names, such as, I know, the Financial Times or the New York Times, big global brands that rely on subscriptions throughout the whole world. I think that they can only say that they have successful business models that rely on their readers paying for information. And this whole thing with social media, it changed completely the media habits of people. And now, the young generations that come, they don't consume news in the way that we used to consume news, I would say. I don't know if I can count you as part of my generation. But for example, the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, they do these very interesting surveys and studies on how people consume news. And what they show is that people between the ages of 18 and 24 don't start their news journey on a website or on an app, which means that they're not really loyal to media brands anymore. And they don't, and they even use Instagram or TikTok as search engines, which, I don't know, throw AI into this mix. And, in this whole abundance of information, in even shorter attention span, it's really hard for journalists to get their messages across. And I would say that is quite the big challenge. Yeah.
That was a fascinating overview of many of the problems in the media industry. And I completely agree on the part about the business model. That, yeah, I'm going to ask a few questions about that later. But yeah, maybe transitioning to the whole AI topic, I think that artificial intelligence can open up many opportunities to help us at least solve part of these problems, because I've been using different AI tools, including ChatGPT, for the past few months, and it's not just being more efficient, but it's like having a brainstorming buddy that can help you solve a wide range of problems, give you very cool ideas. And like personally, it's like I have my creativity augmented multiple times. So this is, I think, something that could potentially help with very much with the generation of ideas that are relevant for audiences, something you mentioned earlier. But maybe the one question I have for you to open up the whole topic is, with AI coming to newsrooms and potentially supporting journalists, reducing the time and resources required for content production, do you believe that this will ultimately lead to an increase in the quality of journalism, or could it potentially result in lazy journalists and a race to the bottom for clicks and advertising revenue?
That's a good question, and I think it's more of a leadership question, actually. I mean, what will the managers in the media industry prioritize? I mean, will they care about keeping the jobs of the people or helping them adapt to this new reality? Or they will just follow the money and maybe produce, I don't know, some cheap synthetic media or semi-automated content that, will just make news more of a commodity than there even are right now. And I don't know, undermine trust. It's also up to them to set clear guidelines within their newsrooms, like how can AI be used in the newsroom to enhance the creativity of journalists, to help them unearth information, on find or uncover interesting stories, but also to set guidelines on what will predominantly stay a human's job, and why journalism matters in the first place. Because you can automate writing the articles, but essentially our role to provide citizens with the information they need to make, the best informed decisions about their life, about their business, about the society in general. This will be still our priority, to look for the multiple perspective, to keep the quality of the public debate and conversations, and to, I don't know, still make people care about the truth and not only seek information that validates, their preconceptions. So essentially, we are up to this question: what will be the business model that will incorporate all this and not just produce more content for the sake of it, or cheaper content for the sake of it?
Yeah, I'm completely with you here. Like on the individual level, I believe we have a lot of journalist retraining to do in the next few years, maybe really redefining the role of a journalist, and giving very clear guidelines to what is expected from a journalist in 2025, 2030, and so on. And on the business level, for me, it's really a question of whether we'd be able to create a good business model for media. So on that note, I have an idea I want to pitch to you, and
Okay.
feel free to critique it and let me know what you think. But what if we create digital twins of journalists and turn them into some sort of personal AI assistants of for whatever people need to know on a given topic? So one thing I'm seeing is that people seem to very much enjoy chatting. So from the traditional messengers, like WhatsApp has over 2 billion active users. Facebook is close to 1 billion. ChatGPT got to 100 million in 2 months. And the cool thing about the last one is that it gives you personalized answers to your questions on pretty much any topic. Yet most publishers around the world today are still trying to make people spend 10 minutes reading an article or even watching a video. And those are very often still missing the information that actually matters to the audience. Do you see a future where journalists have their own chatbot versions of themselves that people can use to get personalized answers to the questions they care about? Subscribe to Zornitsa Stoilova's knowledge and analytical skills. Have her answer all of your tech news questions for, I don't know, €20 a month, or maybe more.
This will be provided by my digital twin. And in the meantime, what would I do? Whatever I want.
You are going to enrich your knowledge and analytical skills. You are going to talk to people, understand their problems, devise new strategies for reaching people.
Okay, interesting. I think this is a very interesting, maybe new emerging business model that come out of the media to explore with their own chatbots that, for example, can crawl their archives and answer people's very specific questions. Because every media, especially the legacy ones, sit on very big knowledge that they can not really make use of until now. I mean, you have a search button in every website, and people can search for information there, but not, for example, ask you, okay, what were the biggest deals in tech in the last 10 years, for example, and have a very concise and informative answer. But I want to challenge this concept a bit by because this is a very this hyper personalization come from a different world, right? Not from the world of journalism and media, and not a concept that I've been familiar with. It comes from the world of products, usability, user experience, and like journalists are used to think about their work in a very different way. Like we are supposed to write about the big stuff that helps us live together as a society. And so if I have to do my job well, I will have to provide you with, as media, we provide a public forum for expression of all kinds of ideas, right? And that will make it possible for you as a user to observe what other people are doing. To observe the diversity of opinions that is out there in the world, without you requiring to join in somehow or to approve or even to, I don't know, but just to give you this whole spectrum of ideas out there or information out there on what people think about a certain topic. And what happens if you only want to know about what you care about, like in a very narrow dimension? For example, today I want to know about, I don't know, tech startups. But the role of a journalist is to open up your world a little bit and to make you see that there's a whole lot of interesting ideas or questions out there, and this won't be done by a personalized chatbot, I believe.
Well, I think it's a question of design. So, for example, you could ask the chatbot, I don't know, give me the latest news from health tech startups in Southeast Europe. And the chatbot could answer your question, with whatever prompt you gave it, but then it can also ask a question itself, like, have you considered why it's not such a good idea to invest in health tech startups?
You think that the AI can do this to challenge your preconceptions on, or even your ideas on what you want to learn?
Well, technologically, it's very much possible. From there, I think it's a question of how you design the system and whether the user would decide that they want to challenge people or they just want to inform people.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, I completely agree with you that if we can have this option to challenge users, that would be actually quite great. So
it will make you differentiate probably in the whole world of people trying to inform you around the internet.
Yeah, actually a very good opportunity for journalists to differentiate and stand out from everyone, because with generative AI, the other development I expect to see happening is that everyone can become a creator, content creator. So every subject matter expert on anything who previously couldn't write or produce content, now they can pretty much easily do it. So even more competition for journalists.
Yep, that's true.
So yeah,
but then also I would like to ask you, what is the difference according to you, if there's such, between content creators and journalists?
Well, I think journalists, have this bigger, more ethical obligation to society to try to, you know, paint a complete picture of what's happening in a given context, to try to explain uh, why something is happening, what are the factors behind it. Uh, it really connects the dots between uh, seemingly disparate data points. While content creators, like I would say, this is a broader term. Like journalists are a type of content creator with their very specific function. But then, as a content creator, you can create content to sell your products, to connect with audiences, or I mean, in a way, even though even these people who are uh, spreading misinformation, they're also content creators.
Of course, absolutely. And thank you for pointing this out because I think, I don't know, for me, it would make more sense maybe for us media as tellers to tell, to inform people more about what is our purpose, what is our value as content creators within this universe of content creators. And because I think it's starting to become more blurry now. And I don't know, I see a problem in that.
Yeah, I
Exactly,
mean,
because other content creators don't have these ethical standards that they have to abide by, and also they have a different purpose. Like we serve society by definition, and they can serve their own brand, for example, or they can serve a brand, or they can serve, I don't know, even if they're some kind of a researcher, they can serve their own research purposes, let's say. But we are journalists, as journalists are the ones who have to look at the big picture, as you said, and say, okay, but where are we going together as a society? So these are the questions that should interest us as content creators.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because nowadays there are people who call themselves journalists, and when you read their content, it's you know totally marketing bullshit and everything. And then
Mm.
there are content marketers who, for example, who, who work at some, I don't know, tech startup, and they follow uh, much more closely the journalistic ethos and standards in uh, when they're writing their book articles. Uh, so yeah, I do see the two, that you know all of it converging, but if we can somehow you know communicate and make this journalistic ethos uh, more popular for all content creators, I think this will benefit society.
Interesting idea. Okay, haven't thought about it.
Okay, I think I got a few new ideas to put in the pitch deck for the future business model of media. Uh, to the next question. So, Alan Rusbridger, former editor-in-chief of The Guardian, once said that, and I'm going to read the quote, the danger of relying too heavily on AI in journalism is that we risk losing the human touch. There is no substitute for human intuition, empathy, and creativity when it comes to storytelling. How do you envision the right balance between AI and the human touch in journalism?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what I said before. We risk, producing just cheap synthetic content if we rely too heavily on AI to create our stories for us. I would say maybe to rely on AI to automate certain kinds of news reporting, maybe in data gathering to analyze big sets of data to help humans identify interesting stories, or to use it as a brainstorming tool, as you said, to enhance our own creativity. but AI is still ethically unaccountable, and we shouldn't forget about that. So we'll still have to leave to the human journalists, I think, to be the fact checkers, to be the editors, to be those who have the judgment to what contributes to the quality of the public debate and what destroys it.
Okay. Yeah, pretty much agree. And we're going to dive deeper into ethics a bit later. But yeah, let's maybe first focus on the role of the journalists in the future newsroom. So yeah, storytelling, critical thinking, empathy, communication. I think we can agree that more or less these are great journalistic skills that won't be automated anytime soon. But in your opinion, what new skills do you think journalists will have to develop to stay relevant in the industry?
Well, I think for sure to become better at prompting, because as we said already, AI is like a mirror to your own creativity and your ability to ask deep, meaningful questions. And if you just ask them dumb questions, you will receive dumb answers, and you will not produce a very high quality journalism, let's say. So I think that what will, I don't know how to call it, but it will evolve somehow. We are now producing more information than, I don't know, maybe ever at any point of history, and it's becoming much more challenging to filter out unwanted information even. And maybe, I don't know, I've read some studies that by 2026 even maybe 90% of the content online will be machine generated. So I don't know, maybe we should focus on um, being this filter that distinguish, fact from fiction and highlight what is important, what is not important. Maybe we will be this, we'll have to develop this kind of skill. I don't know, what would you call it? Like a sort of a human filter to what's important for you and what's important for society, or what really matters.
Data scientist,
Um,
in a
not
way.
not really. I mean, it's a data scientist, but with a human, bringing human perspective to what actually is important, what is relevant, what will matter in 10 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, by data scientist, I mean someone who is responsible for getting insights out of data. So making sense of all the information that's out there, and really telling a story in a clear way for all stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, right now in most of the newsrooms I know, there is one, for example, data journalist that has this in his job description, and maybe we will all just become data journalists in some way, or people who can analyze big sets of data.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do think that data journalism will definitely get bigger in the next years. And then, yeah, human to AI communication. Yeah, I totally think if you're not able to collaborate with the with AI, you won't be competitive uh, in the near future. And if I can mention a few more things here, so another thing that would be increasingly important, and I hope to see some courses. I don't know if you in university or wherever you train as a journalist in the future, but I think it would be much even more important than today to as a journalist to be able to uh, understand the ethical considerations of everything around you, uh, which are becoming more and more complex with time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, uh, we do need better education on journal journalistic ethics. That's for sure. And then But maybe not least, I think that journalists will need to focus way more on uh, growing their personal brands, because that's actually the way to connect with people and to create this human connection and build trust and credibility in what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all this retraining, uh, this transition will probably take some time, that's for sure. But do you think that we as society have trained journalists to be maybe a bit too robotic, and now there will be many around the world uh, who find it very difficult to adapt to the new reality and develop new skills?
That's a good question. I know many journalists who are still struggling to adapt to the old reality from 10 years ago, that when they had to become from journalists who write a story and has to unearth it, write it, to also the paper boys who are supposed to sell the newspaper in this virtual world, and to become social marketers in a way. I do think that there is an immense pressure on journalists to create content that the algorithms will like. And in a way, I think sometimes this clouds their judgment or prevents them from forming their own judgment on what's important for the audience, because we forgot that we are supposed to be the curators of what matters, right? And which stories are important and which are not. And now the AI behind our news feeds on social media is telling us what is important, and it's choosing which words to bombard it with which sounds, which images, based on which will get the most virality, the most reactions, and the most engagement. And I think the questions that we need to ask ourselves as journalists and in the future is, do we really provide people with good information that can help them, make better informed decisions about their lives and businesses? Or do we feed them content that will catch their attention and actually leave them empty handed? So I think that's a very, I don't know, the dilemma right now, the biggest maybe in our daily jobs. That is
So,
also connected with the business model and how, we're trying to um, how we are trying to make money out of the, yeah, to make money so that we can pay journalists to create information.
yeah. But on an individual level, in your opinion, would it be a solution to just send journalists to talk to people a bit more, to listen a bit more, to try to empathize with the audiences?
Well,
Because, yeah,
of course, but they also have this immense pressure to produce more and more content, and talking to people, being out there takes time, which they usually spend, on the computer developing stories. So it's I mean, it's yeah, it's creating the right balance in every newsroom, basically. But of course, talking to people, and this is the most important job, which unfortunately we spend less and less time on.
yeah, I agree. But I think this is where ChatGPT and AI can really help. Yeah, you as journalists, you talk to people, uh, you think of the story you want to tell, uh, you put your critical thinking into use, and then you take all this input and you give it to ChatGPT to write your article. Because I mean, right now, uh, mm, it takes you, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, maybe more for deeper pieces. just to this is time you just spent on mechanical writing, not necessarily developing stronger arguments or including quotes and perspectives for various experts on the topic. You just sit there and write. And maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I don't see how 5 years from now uh, anyone would be bothered to spend all that time on manual writing. I mean, professionally, like you could still take notes in a paper book or juggle down on the whiteboard. But when it comes to content creation, yeah, I do think writing will slowly be going away. What do you think? Do you think writing is here to stay, or could be gone as a way of human expression sooner or later?
I would be very sad to see writing going away as a human expression. I mean, I don't know, how do you develop your thinking process? But for me, it comes with writing. It comes with, maybe consuming a lot of content and conversation and ideas, but writing them down really helps me organize my thoughts and figure out really what do I think. I mean, it's not I don't know, maybe a coincidence that, for example, journaling has, become a lot popular lately. Many therapists also ask people to write down their feelings sometimes in order to help them better understand them. So I'm not sure if it's going away. Maybe the written content as a form of consuming information or making sense of information is diminishing in a way, which is also sad, because I do think that you have a much deeper connection with a text that you read, unlike with a story that you listen or maybe watch on a video. Of course, it depends on the type of content. For example, to experience emotions, of course, video is the best form. But for example, to consume complex ideas, sometimes you really have to dig deeper. At least this is from my personal experience. For example, I really love to listen to long podcasts and to inform my opinion about different topics that I'm not an expert on by listening to other people talking. But I'm not sure if this is how I remember or can make sense of this information by listening in a podcast than by reading in a book. I think it stays much more in my head, and it informs my choices if I read it with my eyes. So I don't know, maybe it's a question of senses, but I do feel I will be very sad if written content is to die. And I think it's making us dumber, just clicking on videos on every topic.
No, I actually think videos are also not the most efficient interface. I mean, like if you look at maybe a longer time period, like I do see maybe not virtual but augmented reality becoming the predominant interface. For interacting with the world around us, and really merging the virtual in the real world. And then there are companies like Neuralink, which are right now working on creating the direct connection between the internet and the human brain. So maybe one day, you can just upload new information to your mind. These are all very far in the future in any case. And you do raise very valid points. Personally, I also prefer writing. It's much easier for me to express my thoughts in writing. But I don't know. I could potentially, accept that it would be a potential, a needed evolution to, and I may need to adapt because sometimes it's so much faster to, just have a verbal conversation, for example, rather than spending half an hour thinking about uh, what to write. So definitely interesting for me to see what happens. Okay. Next question. Considering the potential for tons of AI generated content, how should we keep uh, high journalistic quality and integrity, whether no matter whether the content is created by humans or AI?
Well, that's
Because
a
because at the end of the day, like whatever you prompt the AI assistant, that's what you're gonna get as an output. So if you give it good journalistic standards, it should give you results with high journalistic integrity.
Well, I'm not sure about that because it trains on data that is basically the whole internet, and the whole internet right now is polluted with all kinds of crap, all kinds of unverified and and false information, really. So I really don't have an answer to this question, and I think this is maybe the biggest unknown right now. How do we make AI models that can tell from true or false, or should we fact check manually as humans everything that the AI model tells us? I think this is the biggest challenge right now. But also, like, do people still care about what is true or what is not, or they just care about stuff that is confirming their own biases? I don't know. So that's a question that we have to answer as societies, and that we have to debate from now on, I think. So it's I don't know, it's really the biggest story of our time, and I think it's great that we as journalists can tell it. Like, for example, can we adapt as a society to this fast technological advancement of AI, but also in general? And there's plenty of human stories within this context that we will have to tell as journalists.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting discussion because AI can be a double-edged sword when it comes to fake news, disinformation. On the one hand, it can actually help the detection of such content, but it can also be used to create it.
Mm.
But I think the bigger challenge here is that fake news is ultimately a human problem. That we cannot seem to agree what is true and what is fake, what is a matter of perspective and what is a fact. And on that note, maybe let's wrap our conversation with a simple question. In your opinion, what makes something a definitive fact of reality, and when can we allow for more nuance? Because polarization is another big problem in society today. It's becoming all black and white. You're either 100% right or 100% wrong. And I don't know, maybe AI can help us with that as well, giving like a little bit more nuance back to the world. But yeah, let me know what you think.
I think this is not a simple question at all. I think this is a very difficult question. I don't know if I have to give an example. I mean, AI and being here and us as people having to deal with it, this is a fact, right? I mean, this is something that is really happening. And whether this competition to dominate the market that is not right now driving this acceleration of AI, and whether this eventually will bring humanity to, this will eventually be to the benefit of humanity and society. This is where the nuance is. I mean, this is where you don't have a definitive answer. And this is partly a role of journalists to try to distill this question and to provide society with all kinds of perspective so that everyone can make their own informed decision on whether AI can be a threat or a benefit to society after all.
Okay. Well, you say us being here is a fact, but then I can share the opinion that we're living in a virtual reality that's that's created by artificial intelligence, who is controlling every move of ours, and we just don't know it yet.
I don't know. This is very sci-fi for my journalistic brain to to comprehend.
Yeah, this is very meta. Okay. Well, I think it's a very good. What you said previously is a very good way to end this conversation, and I really enjoyed our talk today. It's already one of my favorite interviews ever.
Oh wow, thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights and perspectives on this fascinating and timely topic. We can probably spend the next 5 or 10 hours, diving even deeper. But maybe in a future episode of the uh, Beyond Borders video show. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure discussing the future of journalism and the role of AI with you. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe wherever you are. And until next time, keep challenging the status quo and stay curious.